Well, let's talk about the. Oh, the sun's gone behind the house again. Let's talk about the climate change that's going on at the moment. The way things are going is that the weather isn't getting particularly warmer. It's just becoming slightly milder during the winter seasons. And as we're finding out now, as we saw in Wales with the flooding, is that when the EU banned all dredging of drains and things like that, it's actually having a knock-on effect where the water cannot flow from the land fast enough, so it's causing floods. Where we live, just here, there's a drain that runs right past my mother-in-law's house. In fact, the drain runs quite a long way inland as well. And when my mother-in-law was a little girl, she was still lived in the same area. On the other side of the drain was a farmer's field that had cows. That during the summer months, the drain used to dry out completely, and the cows would go from one side of the drain to the other side of the drain, and they would be looking in her back garden when she got up in the morning. So she had cows looking over her fence. And of course, that doesn't happen now. The same drain that was cleared on a regular basis, due to the EU's involvement, they stopped clearing the drains. Why you would do that, I don't know. But this is what happened. And of course now, because the drain hasn't been cleared, it's half full of water all the time. That means that its capacity for absorbing flood water is halved. Okay, maybe not half, but you get the idea. If it's half full of water, then it can only take half more before it starts to overflow. And this is what's happened about 20 years ago here, simply because we didn't clear the drains. And of course, we're just waiting now for a good heavy rainfall, and it will happen again, won't it? So that's what we need to start doing, is to say, OK, we've now left the EU for good. Let's start clearing the drains and allowing the rainwater to flow out to sea where it should be. And one of the other things about this climate scam that's going on is wind and solar panels. They reckon that they're going to be the future of the UK. Well, just recently I was in a place called Invergordon up near Inverness in Scotland. Anyway, as we were steaming through that little tiny air passage there to get to Invergordon, there was all these windmills sat idle because there was no wind. And on occasions when there's too much wind, they're also shut down as well. And there are several wind farms in the UK which are being paid to stop turning. This is Ed Miliband's idea, is that he doesn't want them turning for some reason. Anyway, large solar panels as well in Invergordon, and they were all covered in snow. So the wind turbines weren't turning, and it couldn't produce any electricity from the solar panels because they were covered in snow. So how did we get our electricity to charge our EV cars? Yeah, you got it. Coal from Holland, where they're still burning coal. Our own gas-powered power stations. And there's a biofuel in Drax in Yorkshire, which, if we allow these bio things to go, they will completely wipe out the planet of trees if we allow that to happen. And of course, we already know that there's a good few thousand years worth of coal left underground. And they say it's about 4,000 years worth of coal under Drax. So why aren't they using that coal? And in that 4,000 years, why can't we develop something that that doesn't destroy the planet? You know, like I mentioned before about this methanol, how you can make it from CO2 in the atmosphere and urea, which we all know where that comes from, and they combine it in a copper carbon bowl and they shine sunlight on it and you produce methanol. It's a bit more complicated than I'm making out, but yeah, that's about it. So what are we going to do with this climate scam that Ed Miliband is trying to destroy us all? I hope you saw that video I did about carbon capture. That was quite eye-opening, doing some research into that. And of course, having to have so many, it's just unbelievable. I don't know if you're aware, but the Earth itself produces naturally somewhere in the region of 470 billion tons of CO2 annually. That's compared to the 35 billion tons that the UK produces. No, sorry, that's wrong. It's 35 billion tons a year that the world produces. Man-made CO2 is 35 billion tons, but the natural stuff that's the rotting vegetation, this, that, and the other, is actually 470 billion tons. So really, we're what's the word I'm looking for? Urinating against the wind, really, to get down to net zero. The UK only produces 1% of that 35 billion tons of CO2 into the atmosphere, and yet we're paying an absolute goddamn fortune for nothing. Anyway, rambled on, ranted too much. See you on the next one. Bye then.